Hi, I'm standing in Merton Street and I can hear the cackle of birds and laughter of tourists. And it's a depressing afternoon. Actually, it's a lovely bright afternoon, but it's depressing because this is the last afternoon that will be like that for 5 months, because the clocks go back tonight and tomorrow and onwards we'll be going home from work almost in the dark, and then a few days later definitely in the dark. Everybody says they prefer lit evenings more than lit mornings. I mean, sunlit evenings more than sunlit mornings, but nobody ever seems to vote in the politicians that will make the other end of the day light rather than doing so for the morning. Anyway, I was ranting on about this because I do have something to say about the clocks going back, and it's why I'm in Merton Street. That's Merton College entrance, and that's the other end of Merton Street, going down, if you turn left, you go past the examination school's quadrangle and then onto the high street and then over Magdalen Bridge. But there's something strange that goes on in Merton tonight, and that's the Merton Time ceremony, which is open, I believe, these days only to members of Merton. Not sure that even their friends are allowed to come in and take part from other colleges. So there's not much chance of anybody else seeing it. And the way it's normally described to me is that the students of Merton wear full academic dress and they walk formally round the Fellows Quadrangle for an hour between 1 a.m. and 1 a.m. That's the 1 a.m. before the clocks go back and the 1 a.m. after they go back, drinking port. So most people who claim to like the first day of the clocks going back say they do so because they get an extra hour's sleep. They can get up an hour later and still have the same time. But the Merton students do it more sensibly by filling themselves with port just after midnight. And where it is, I won't go in. This is the Merton College Lodge. The Fellows Quadrangle is a square space, and I think it's roughly behind that conical spire or turret. And the students will walk round that, as I say, for an hour while drinking port. Or at least that's more or less the way the ceremony started. Since Oxford generations are only about 3 years long, and things change because students can't find the right clothes or are too drunk to remember what the right clothes are, and that sort of thing. It may not be quite the same as what I've just said, but it'll be something along those lines. Okay, well, I have now moved over to the other side of the road so that I don't impede the hordes of tourists coming to gawp at Merton. And I'm going to read from the Merton Miscellany Merton Time Ceremony webpage. So, Merton Miscellany, the Merton Time Ceremony, the Merton Time Ceremony. The Merton Time ceremony has no spiritual or recreational element like other Oxford ceremonies, nor is it an artificial ceremony conferring a status on those who participate. It is a purely temporal and practical ceremony, first held in its current form in AD 1971, although it is suspected to have much earlier origins, possibly in the form of an ancient Celtic autumnal ceremony. It is designed to remedy the ill effects of modern man's abrupt interference with the diurnal cycle, the daily cycle of night and day. It is performed during the hour each autumn in which the clocks in the United Kingdom return to Greenwich Mean Time. Although this is normally referred to as the hour in which the clocks are put back, those who perform the ceremony prefer to refer to the hour as that in which the clocks stand still. For, although it is difficult to accept the notion that time can go backwards, and even more so to accept that it can suddenly leap backwards, it is quite natural to visualize time slowing down, eventually to zero. During that hour, the participants walk anti-clockwise, in relays, around some suitably large horizontal area which has, for reasons of convenience, always been Fellows' Quadrangle in Merton College, Oxford. The purpose and effect of this is to create a localised area in which natural time stands still for 1 hour, in the hope that into this well of depressed natural time thus created will flow sufficient natural time from surrounding areas to nearly equalise civil time within the country within about 24 hours, thus reducing by many days the time it would otherwise take nature, including mankind, to readapt its diurnal cycle after an abrupt stationary jet lag. Okay, well, if that sounds a bit complicated, what he's saying is that when the clocks go back, it's like jet lag, and you want to reduce the amount of time that people suffer this jet lag. So you're trying to create a sort of area of stationary time into which time from the rest of the country will flow, and that will equalise the time throughout the country within about 24 hours, making the period of jet lag shorter. Okay, page 2. The ceremony is traditionally hosted by the keeper of the watch, sending out invitations for the following Sunday to take port around the sundial in Fellows Garden, http://merton.ox.ac.uk/photos/lawn.jpg at 1:30 a.m. for 2 a.m. Passim. Accordingly, at about 1:30 a.m. on the Sunday, the participants congregate around the sundial. Port is poured and introductions are made. There are traditionally 3 toasts between about 1:40 a.m. and 1:55 a.m. The first is to a good old time. The second, a joint toast to the sundial and the nearby ancient mulberry tree, Morus nigra. That second toast is O tempora o more, and the third is Long live the counter-revolution. Despite the wording of the invitations, there is no circumperambulation in Fellows Garden. After the third toast, the participants leave the sundial and walk the 53 yards to the Tower of the Four Orders. 4 Orders. And that's that, if you can see it. http://merton.ox.ac.uk/photos/fellows-tower.jpg. At the middle of the south side of Fellows Quadrangle. The 4 orders, by the way, will be the different types of column that are used at each level of the tower, running up left and right. At 2 a.m. precisely, according to the keeper of the watch, the participants walk backwards and anti-clockwise around the quadrangle. Initially, everyone does so, each person completing at least 2 circuits, and the senior participants 3 or 4, before stopping. Throughout the hour, participants make further circuits at their leisure, but ensuring that there are always at least 2 people maintaining the counter-revolution. Immediately before the end of the hour, those not already walking embark upon a final circuit, so as to be walking when the hour is up. So, summarising, they're drinking toasts to various things, and then they go off from... They go off away from the sundial, which is in the Fellows' Garden, and they go to that tower, and then they go to and then they start walking round backwards and anti-clockwise around the Fellows' Quadrangle, and the rules seem to be made to say that at least 2 or 3 people are always walking. It is not, in principle, essential to walk backwards. This is done partly to increase the solemnity of the occasion, and partly because when one walks in a circle, one sees where one is going sooner if one walks backwards, but chiefly because it has always seemed the obvious thing to do. Dress for the occasion is full academic dress for men. That is, dark suit, white shirt, white bow tie, black shoes and gown. Squares or caps should be worn. So that's the same sort of dress that you'll see on students who've been taking part in the matriculation ceremony or taking exams. Graduates, other than doctors, wear hoods. This is indeed one of only 4 occasions on the university calendar on which hoods are worn. And then there's a warning, which bears out what I said about friends. Please note that for security reasons, only bona fide Mertonians may attend the time ceremony. Non-members of the college must leave by midnight, which does seem awfully mean. Some words of advice for freshers. 1. Be quiet. The ceremony is best when hushed. Whisper loudly rather than talk softly, since whispering carries less far. Step softly, and remember that people may be trying to sleep. 2. Do not carry full glasses or cups of port while walking. Port will spill onto your hand, making an already cold hand colder. That's not advice that I've seen before. Somebody's obviously tried it. When you need a refill, stop at the tower or on approach of the tower hand. When you need a refill, stop at the tower or on approach of the tower, hand your glass to an onlooker who will walk faster to the other side of the tower and there fill your glass, returning it to you as you pass. Walking to and fro by the tower will not disturb the temporal effect, as it does not alter the winding number. Winding number is a genuine mathematical term, and I think what he's saying is that it's like having strings side by side pointing in opposite directions. Having 2 strings pointing one way and 3 strings pointing the other way is the same as having, say, 5 strings pointing one way and 6 strings pointing the other way. The net difference is the same. It is not necessary to walk for the whole hour. The quadrangle is not large enough for everyone to walk all the time. 20 to 35 minutes is suggested. It is not necessary to link arms with others. Do not walk on the grass. Keep well to the right as you pass the Fitzjames archway, so as not to walk backwards into the bushes. Twirling at the corners has recently become fashionable, though it is unseemly and should be discouraged. Remember that you are at a walk, not a dance. I feel some music might be appropriate to the rest of the web page. Of course, it stops as I approach. There's a little windowsill between below this bird. Right, the theory of the Merton time ceremony attempts to produce a rigorous theoretical explanation of the effects of physical rotation on natural time have so far been unsuccessful. Current research favours the idea that, just as physical matter is composed of particles, so time is composed of elementary objects called chronicles. Two sorts of chronicle are proposed. They have been provisionally named the quick and the quack. Particles can be either virtual or exist. Chronicles can be either free or bound to a particle. A particle can only exist if bound to a chronicle. That will probably make sense if you've studied subatomic physics. It may not make sense to many other people, but basically he's parodying bits of the theory of quarks and so on. A free chronicle can be visualized as an event waiting for somewhere to happen. Naturally, chronicles exist in two spin states, clockwise and anti-clockwise. These states behave identically except in a gravitational field. In our particular section of the universe, all chronicles have clockwise spin. Chronicles are affected by gravity, but particles are not. Therefore, free chronicles will fall, but virtual particles will float. A sufficiently strong current of angular momentum, anti-clockwise relative to gravitational field lines, reduces the effective binding energy of chronicles. Freeing some chronicles completely. The freed chronicles migrate down the gravitational field lines where they are either trapped by virtual particles below the angular momentum current or collect in a cloud supported by negative degenerate chronicle pressure. But the virtual particles float, capturing chronicles from adjacent existing particles, thus producing a chronicle-deficient shock wave which radiates horizontally from the source of angular momentum. If the current is turned on suddenly, maintained steadily, and turned off suddenly, the shock wave will be square. If it is maintained for long enough, statistical fluctuations will even out, and every particle will cease to exist for the same amount of time. Natural time will thus have been delayed. And if I understand it correctly, what he's saying very roughly is that the time particles emitted by all these people walking round in that particular direction sort of bind to the particles of matter around it and cause them all to not exist for a certain amount of time and then to start existing again. But anybody who thinks they understood any of the words in that paragraph, I suggest you find the web page and read it at your leisure. It's more of a spoof on various bits of physics. And finally, if the current is turned on suddenly, maintained steadily, and turned off suddenly, the shock wave will be square. Hang on. He's actually repeated the last paragraph twice. I don't know whether that's intentional or not, so I shan't read it again. So that's the end. Merton College homepage, there's a link to http www.merton.ox.ac.uk, and then there's an advert for wordpress.com. So that's the Merton time ceremony and its theoretical explanation, and it will be happening tonight roughly behind the chapel in the Fellows Quadrangle. See you next time.